So let's kick it off. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you for joining us. My name is Michael Thompson. I'm a partner and senior wealth advisor here at Copperleaf Financial, based in Williston, Vermont. My guest today, one of our most popular guests ever, Jared Hoffman, is a managing director at Buckingham Strategic Partners and has been at Buckingham since 2004. Jared is an expert in the area of cybersecurity and does these training sessions all across the country, and we're fortunate to have him join us every year for these sessions. Jared's gonna kick it off in a minute. Just as a reminder, we do record these sessions, so we're gonna have this posted on our website within a week or so. So you can certainly share it with your friends if you find the content interesting and you want to share it. That's always appreciated. And we also will allow for questions at the end, or if you have questions along the way and would like to just put them in the chat, we'll make sure to get to your questions along the way. So thank you, Jared, for joining us. I'll ask you to go ahead and start up, kick us off. What's the newest, what's the state of cybersecurity today in September of 2023?
The state is scary, fortunately. Yeah. And I think the goal today, and I really appreciate inviting me back, Michael, is to give everyone on this call ways to make themselves more secure that are not going to be technical. We're really not going to be talking much about technology today. We're going to be talking more about what are the behaviors that we need to either implement or existing ones we need to modify to really shrink our target size down. This is the worst year I've ever seen in terms of individuals being scammed out of six-figure dollar amounts. Okay, I know of at least 15 this year that I've worked with firms on. So this can be devastating to an individual, to a family, to a business. And what we're going to do today is kind of cover, similar to those if you attended last year, some of these, the practices will be similar because the best practices really haven't changed, but some of the methods have, and we're going to also show you new examples of things. I still see a lot of the same methods, Michael, but I see new skins on top, right?
Yeah.
Things adapt to whether it be a news event or things going on in the world. They will find new ways, but it's still, we're seeing the same types of social engineering tactics being used against people. I think one of the biggest myths I always see in this space is people feel like because I'm maybe of an older generation, I'm more adept to falling for these scams. I think that is absolutely not true. And if you have any lack of confidence in your ability to use technology, here's a 20-year-old who posted this. I don't know why they actually admitted to this, but they decided for some reason that they had heard that if they put their phone in the microwave, it will charge faster. And as you can guess, this is what actually ended up happening. Yeah. So here's somebody that knows how to use a phone, knows how to post on the internet, and you can see that probably not a candidate for Mensa at this point, right? No. I think this stat is really interesting. Younger people actually do report a lot more fraud happening against them than older people. Wow. So now you can see that older people tend to be much higher victims. And I do think that sometimes older people are targeted more, or senior people, let's say. Mm-hmm. The reason is it's not because the cyber criminals think, well, seniors are more likely to fall for these scams. I think there's no much difference there. They have something that a lot of younger people don't have, money, right? A 20-year-old is not going to have nearly as much money likely as someone who's in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Yep. That's why seniors tend to be targeted more. It is interesting, though, that a lot of older people do not report cybercrime against them. I think there's two reasons for that. One is I think we're not always sure, how do we go about reporting this? What do we even do? We'll talk about that a little bit today. And sometimes I think they feel, well, it was my fault, or they feel self-blame, or they're sometimes embarrassed to say something. You have to remember that if this ever happens to you, and some of you on this call, you may have been a victim of cybercrime in some form. You are a victim. You're not someone that did something wrong. Maybe you didn't follow best practice, but that doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means There's bad people out there looking to take advantage. So if you're ever a victim of this, don't feel embarrassment, don't feel blame. Take steps to protect yourself going forward and see what you can do with what happened itself. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. That's interesting. We certainly hear about scams that are directed specifically at older folks, and a lot of our clients kind of fall into that demographic. So I always think about it, primarily those folks as the older generation as being the victims, but this is interesting. Not so much.
So the other big target, probably the most targeted one, is actually not older people. It is kids. Kids are the number one target of cyber criminals. And it's because kids have something that a lot of us do not have. Kids have perfectly pristine credit, right? Because they don't really have any credit. And so if a cyber criminal can get a hold of a child's social security number, they can try to use that number. When the creditor sees that social security number, when credit application is being filed, the creditor can only confirm. They can't look at a number and say, hey, this belongs to a 7-month-old or this belongs to a 77-year-old. They can only confirm, is this a valid number? And if there's a date with the number, the date is not the birth date, is the date the card was issued. So even that date doesn't indicate age. If an age gets associated with it, it could be the first time someone used it. So if a 45-year-old is using a 2-year-old's social security number, the age becomes 45 with that creditor. So cyber criminals love to get a hold of these because typically parents are not checking their child's credit because there should be no reason to, and therefore they know that they can get away with it for a long time. There are things you can do in this space now. One, anyone on this call can do these things in the next 24 hours, and we'll give you a checklist that we'll be sending out as a follow-up from Michael and his team. One is, see if you can get a credit report for your child. You should try to get it with all 3 agencies, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and you should get nothing back. You should get nothing back. If you get a credit report back, whether it's bad credit or great credit, even great credit is not a good sign. Your child should not have any credit. So if you get that credit report back and you see that they have a credit score, that's when you want to take action. Something has happened. There are red flags that something's going on. Like if you get a letter from the IRS that your child has already filed their tax return, they shouldn't have one. If you get a call from a debt collection agency that Susie owes $200,000, but Susie, is 6 months old. You're going to hang up, but you need to take more action because there's a reason that's happening. I think the biggest one I see, and it does seem cute at the time, is when your child gets a credit card offer in the mail. And it does seem kind of, Billy's getting his first Visa card offer, and it seems like it's junk mail. He's probably getting that because someone's filed credit in his name. And once you get on those lists, of course, other people want you to start opening up credit. So take that as a red flag that action needs to be taken. There are some things you can do to try to prevent this. One is be really careful about giving out your child's social security number. There's not many reasons you need to. I use an example from a couple of years ago where I registered my niece for softball. And on the form, it asked name, address, phone number, what position, what's her favorite number, what's her social security number. And I asked the guy at the front desk doing the registration, I said, I'm going to leave that line blank. What do you guys need her social for? He goes, I don't know. We got this form online. So they weren't even sure why they were asking for it. And I'd recommend, if in cases where you really do need to supply your child's social, I would take that piece of mail and I would take it to the post office and drop it off. There's a lot of mail fraud where people will drive through neighborhoods looking for the red flag. They call it the red flag of fraud, where they're looking for the red flag in the mailbox and go through people's mail. We'll share an example of that later on. You get that little blue social security card. I would lock that away. If you keep it in your wallet or purse and that gets stolen, now they have your child's social. And one of the big things you can do now that you couldn't have done a few years ago was you can now freeze your child's credit. And I recommend this to everyone. That's a little more involved than freezing your own credit because you also have to show that you're the guardian. But what you can do is put a freeze in your child's credit. And then if the bad guy ever gets a hold of your child's social and tries to open up new credit, they're not going to be able to. And what will happen is that will expire when they become an adult. Depending on what state, that age can vary a little bit. But once they become an adult, that credit freeze expires, but then they can freeze it as an adult.
This is really good, Jared. I think for a long time, we've encouraged parents when they're with their teenagers, or especially as their kids are getting ready to go to college, that one of the things that they should do is, freeze the credit, or be aware of potential identity theft for their kids then. But it sounds like, even doing it for a 6-month-old and starting as early as that is the right thing to do.
It is, and it's something easy to forget about. But again, this is an easy thing to do. It'll take you about an hour, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be frozen. And that's why they're taking it for children. They want that credit that they can use and abuse and trash.
Good call. So protect the kids, lock down the kids so they can't have their identity stolen. Good.
The other group, you can kind of tell I grew up in the Saturday morning cartoon era. The other group that typically is targeted is everybody in this call, taxpayers. Fraudsters love you as taxpayers. And the methods that they use to do this are still the same. Typically, they're going to try to call you, text you, or email you saying that they're the IRS. The IRS is never going to do any of these three things. The IRS is not just going to randomly call you and threaten you that, hey, you didn't pay your taxes last year and the cops are coming. And some of you on this call today, watching this, may have had one of these types of calls, or you get a threatening text, or sometimes it's even like, hey, you're getting a big refund. We need to supply information. These are always going to be scams. So be really aware of this. If you get one of these and you're still curious about something, look up the IRS office in your area and call them directly. Here's some examples of this that I've seen. This person gets a text. It's a threatening text. Your benefits are going to be frozen. You're going to have a lawsuit filed against you. I'm going to call this number. I'm going to speak to someone who's claiming to be from the IRS, and I'm sure they're going to ask me for my social security number, or they're going to tell me how I can pay them to make this go away. Here's one. This one I always think is a little funny, where someone got an email saying that they're owed a refund. And if they don't take this refund, they're going to go to jail. Now, I don't think the IRS is that desperate to get us our money back, right?
Yeah.
Again, they're using it, maybe excitement, or even a little, this is almost a threatening email, right? I know the IRS is probably not on our Christmas card list, but the IRS is never going to threaten you in a belligerent way, in a bullying way, telling you've got to do something immediately. If you do owe a refund, you're going to get something in the mail. And if you don't pay it, you're going to get something in the mail again and again and again. It's going to be a long time before you're ever in a situation where you would have to face some kind of a stiff penalty or a prison time. So when you see these threatening emails, just remember they're not real.
Yeah. Wow.
What are we worth? There's a lot of demand for our identities. Unfortunately, there's a lot of supply. The average identity sells for $12. I went on Etsy this week to see what kind of things sell for $12 on Etsy. What am I worth according to some of the products I see out here? Here's an emotional support pickle. I know it actually is kind of cute, but the fact that I'm worth this little knitted emotional support pickle that I picture some person knitting, for a few hours, it's not the best feel in the world, right? But it's just because there is so much stuff out there today.
Wow.
And this is kind of think about, we've all seen this iceberg graphic, I know, but this is really a good graphic of what is the internet. So that top part, that's the part all of us go to all the time. We want to check out the latest pennant races in baseball. We go to ESPN.com. We want to see, hey, what's the weather going to be this weekend? We go to weather.com. What's going on in the news, etc. These are sites we go to all the time. They do not require a login. They don't require a password. We can Google search. We get results. We go and read articles or find out what's going on in these places. There's a much bigger part of the internet, though, all of us use all the time, too, called the deep web. These are sites like maybe your banking site, for example. When you go to your bank site, if you want to look at your balances, you put in a username and password. If you work at a company, your company probably has an intranet site. It's not for the public, it's for the associates. Maybe your doctor has a medical portal, or you work with a lawyer who you exchange documents with, right? There's thousands of sites out there like this that we all use, but the difference is the content in those sites is not going to show up in a Google search because it does require a level of access. And then there's another part way at the bottom there called the dark web. And these are sites that specialize in things like stolen identities, drug trafficking, child pornography. This is a part of the internet that is a lot of illegal activity happens. I'm part of a group called Infraguard. It's a partnership with the FBI, and I've really enjoyed being able to learn about it and what goes on out there. They took us out on the dark web one night, and the first question we asked was, why don't you guys just shut the dark web down? Right? That, to me, that seemed pretty logical.
Yeah.
And they explained it to us. It's just not that simple. The dark web, first of all, it's everywhere. It's a fully encrypted part of the internet, and getting out there is a lot different. Is it legal to go on the dark web? Yes, it is. Now, what you do out there might become illegal, but can any of us go out there? We could. It's not easy to get out there. You have to have a special type of browser called TOR installed. But could any of us do this? We could. And could we go out there legally? Yes. And then once you get out there, it's tricky because it's not searchable. You have to kind of know what you're doing. But we fortunately had a guide. I'm going to show you some of the sites that we got to see while we were out there. And this is the part that's going to be a little scary for people, but it's also going to give you an idea of what's happening out there and then what happens to your identity once it gets stolen. So here's a perfect example of this. And you see what they call dark web marketplaces. So just like today, you might go to Amazon to buy something, or eBay or Temu or some of these other specialty sites. Here's a site that sells all kinds of stolen data. Netflix accounts, Hulu accounts, PayPal accounts, stolen. Look at stolen Social Security numbers, $1.
Wow.
And look at the dam we just talked about. You could file someone's tax return with a stolen Social Security number. You could steal a child's credit, my credit if I don't have it frozen, etc. Here's a site that just specializes, they just do credit cards and bank cards. And there are thousands of people looking. You can see that top one, stolen Visa and MasterCards, 127,000 views. So the dark web, while it's not a place I think any of us really go to, or maybe even had a chance to look at, there are millions of people out there looking at this stuff and making transactions.
Wow.
Here's a site that specializes in, drug trafficking. That's become a really popular area of the dark web. I think if your Netflix account got stolen, I think there'd be instant panic would set in, right? I mean, my gosh, sometimes that's the only thing I watch in the weekend is Netflix, right? So there's a site that specializes in that. This one was interesting to me. Here's a site that specializes in the sale of counterfeit money.
Wow.
So they will sell you $1,600 worth of counterfeit bills for $800.
Wow.
And then there's some weird stuff we saw. This one actually did crack me up a little bit, Michael. Maybe for next Father's Day. Here's a do-it-yourself.
Oh my God.
There's some weird stuff out there.
Weird stuff.
Weird. Well, I would not probably recommend that one, but for the dad that doesn't have everything, I guess you can go that direction.
Wow.
The dark web is interesting because they're really running it like a true marketplace. And there are legitimate US businesses now taking business practices from them because it is so well run. They will offer 100% satisfaction. Now, how can they do that? If I buy a stolen credit card on the dark web, and then when I go to use it, I'm unable to, let's say that the card got canceled. What am I going to do as the buyer of that stolen credit card? Can I go to the police and say I bought a stolen credit card and it doesn't work? I want you to get my money back? Of course not, right? Although I'm sure that's probably happened because criminals aren't always super smart either. I'm going to go back to that dark web marketplace and say, hey, I bought this stolen credit card and I tried to use it and it doesn't work. I can almost guarantee you they're going to give me a new one. Why? Because they don't want to have a bad reputation out there. They want people coming back to their store and buying more. So they're going to try to rectify it for you. They're going to offer things like 24/7 customer service. They're going to do something like a free trial. You want me to hack 10,000 accounts? I'm going to do 10 for free to show you I know what we're doing. We're going to get you results. We're going to prove it. Wow. And this is upside down to me. You start seeing words out there like honesty and integrity. We're hackers you can trust to do the wrong thing. We hire the best people. Go with us.
Wow.
And so they're really running these almost like these are real enterprises. Now, when I think of bad guys, this is my stereotype, Brad. I think of some, kid in his parents' basement with a big computer set up. Maybe it's like the guy in Jurassic Park, right? They're drinking 80 ounces of Diet Coke a day, sitting in front of a computer all day with their little squishy ball, right? But that's not what these people actually look like. Cyber criminals look like this. What you see on your screen here, these are actual cyber criminals, okay? And I think looking at these people, they look like pretty normal people to me. These look like people I could live next door to. I could easily pass on the street. Maybe, we go to the same gym or we We shop at the same place. I think there's nothing strange about these people. And while they may not be violent people, I think they're super dangerous because one, they're extremely social. They have a very unique set social skill that they're going to use against you, and they do not discriminate. They will take your money from you. They don't care what your race is. They don't care what your religion is. They don't care how rich or poor you are. They want your money, and they're pretty ruthless about it. So,
Scary.
yeah, it is. So we talked about like who's doing this activity, what happens to your identities when it's stolen. Now we want to kind of talk about how do you stop this? What are the things?
What can you do about it? Yeah.
And the number one method that is used by all these people is social engineering, which is a very non-technical thing. They use our emotions against us. They get us to do things we normally would never do. If I went up to Michael on the street and we had never met each other and I said, "Hi, excuse me, sir, can I have your username and password to your email?" There's zero chance I'm going to get that, right? And I'm going to either get a dirty look or something else, right? But if I call somebody and they work at a big company and I say, "Hi, I'm Jared in IT. We've got an emergency. Someone's trying to hack into your account. I need to get your username and password right away to lock it down." I think there's a really good chance you're going to give it to me because I put you in a very different situation. I am giving you no time to think about it. I'm using your loyalty to the company against you. I know you want to do the right thing for the company. And I'm telling you, if you don't do this, the company's going to get hacked. That's social engineering. So we're going to walk through some actual examples of this. If you can start to recognize these threats, you're going to lower your chance of being. Here's a common one. I get an email. My email account is going to expire. We use email all the time. You need to switch to a new account. You need to upgrade. Your passwords expired, things like that. Click this link to re-sign in. And what's going to happen? Is this going to be a virus? Maybe, probably not, though. It's probably going to take me to a fake website. And I'm going to be asked to be put in my credentials to reactivate my account. And now I've just given my credentials to the bad guys.
Yep.
Super low tech, right? They just had to send me an email and create a one-page website. Here's one somebody sent me they got from Amazon. Got double charged on an order. No one wants that to happen. Amazon's saying, "We have to get this fixed for you and give you a refund. Update your billing information." Okay, so I'm going to click on this link, and now I'm going to update and give them my credit card information. And now I've supplied that to the bad guys.
Yeah.
So a lot of these emails, anytime you're ever asked to give your password in an email, give your credit card information in a pop-up window in an email, these are always red flags. I love getting packages, and I'm someone who orders enough stuff on Amazon. Sometimes I forget what I ordered. And so when I come to the house and I see that box, I don't even know what it is. And when you get one of these emails too, FedEx is trying to deliver something to your house. Sometimes they'll even say, "It's too big of a box to deliver." Well, now I'm really excited. What did someone send me, right? So they want you to click on these links and supply information. Maybe it's supplying your social security number to confirm who you are. But again, these are phishing tactics. They're trying to get you to do things. Did you really order something from FedEx? Are you really expecting something? Call FedEx. Go to FedEx.com. Don't click on these links and emails. Here's a good example of this that I received. And at Buckingham, we have software that prevents any type of virus from getting to us. So they don't allow me to click on a bad link at Buckingham. And Michael's, I know your firm has antivirus software as well, right?
We
They
do,
take
yep.
the risk away from me, right? But I did get this email, and I have a Southwest Chase card. So this email got my attention because it says, "Your card is going to be canceled." I have one credit card. So if my credit card gets canceled, I'm in big trouble. And you can see there's some phrases in here like, "You must act now, urgent action required." When you see phrases like this in an email, that's always kind of a red flag. Because again, they're trying to get me to act without thinking. How urgent can something be if it's sent via email? You know, we're not checking most of us anyway, are not checking our email constantly. I check my personal email once a day. So got my attention though. But then I started looking at some of these links. I didn't click on the links, but I did hover over them. And I could see that these links some of them were not links at all. They looked like links, but they were not. And some of them were taking me to places that clearly were not chase.com. So a web link can say anything, but just because it says usbank.com doesn't mean it's going to take you to US Bank. Or just because it says Walmart needs to give you a refund, go to walmart.com, doesn't mean you're going to walmart.com. Hover over a link and see what it says. And even better yet, if it's saying, hey, Amazon wants you to do this, I would open up a separate browser, go to amazon.com at the address I know it to be, and see what's going on.
Mhm.
And in this case, somebody asked, well, wait a minute, I thought Buckingham had all these protections, and they do. But there's no virus on this email. That's why I received it. Okay. Same with our home emails. I'm sure all of us on this call, we have something that protects us, but it's not a magic bullet. It can't stop things that don't have viruses. And what they wanted me to do is click on a link. And I'm sure had I done that, I'm going to go to something that looks just like chase.com. I'm going to have to put in my account credentials. And now I've given my banking, my credit card information to the cyber criminal. And that's how they're stealing it. It's not some complex code or satellite from space beaming into my computer, stealing my data.
Yeah.
There's also examples of what we call spear phishing. This is where they go after an individual. A lot of times this is someone at a company. Could be the head of HR who has a lot access to a lot of data, the chief financial officer, the CEO. Sometimes it's also, though, it could be someone on the service side. And in this case, that's probably what it is here. And so they're being asked at this financial services firm, their boss sends them an email. I'm in a meeting all day. So in other words, I'm not available for you to call me, but we need to do a wire transfer as soon as possible to pay a client. Can you get this done basically now? And you can see it's urgent, right? Please get this out today. And as an employee, that person has loyalty to their boss. They want to do the right thing. The boss is saying, I need your help. Do this. This is why Buckingham, this is why Copperleaf have things like, we will never process a wire without talking to you, because these are tactics we see all the time.
Yep.
I got this one that I won $1,000 Walmart gift card. So sometimes they don't always use threats. Sometimes it's excitement, right? Why am I winning a Walmart gift card though? I don't actually shop at Walmart because there's not one near my house. I haven't entered, and even if I did, have I actually entered something? Why am I receiving this? And why are they texting it to me? These are always big red flags. Things like a lottery. You won a lottery. Have you played that lottery? If I click on this link, I'm sure to redeem my card, I'm going to have to give them information. Social security number, banking information, so they can deposit it in my bank. I'm giving my credentials over. Here's one I've seen too, where they use cybersecurity against you. Someone his account has been, a new pay has been opened on your account. Did you do this? I'm going to say, no, I did not do this. Oh, I did not do this. Click on this link to correct it. They use sometimes what they call vishing. This is where they do things by phone. I think this is a pretty effective one, right? My account at Wells Fargo has been locked. That's going to create panic. That's social engineering, right? I'm going to call this number. I'm going to get a customer rep who's going to say, hi, I'm here to help you. Yes, you received our text that your account was locked. We did send that. I need to get your account unlocked for you. I'm happy to help you. We can get this done in a couple minutes. What is your account information? What's your password? I hear typing in the background. I'm going to unlock that account. Anything else I can do to help? I say no. I check my account. Sure enough, it's unlocked, but it was never locked in the first place.
Yep.
Anytime you get a text similar to this saying your account's been locked, you need to give us your account number, your password. Those are always going to be scams. This is one we see a lot of too. Your computer has a virus, right? Sometimes it's a pop-up like it was here. And a lot of times it's flashing. It's going to get your attention. Or you get a call from someone at Microsoft telling you your computer has a virus. No one from Microsoft will ever call you. Even when you need them to call you, they're not going to call you, okay? So always be aware of these things. Nobody knows if your computer has a virus. If you get one of these and you think maybe my computer does have a virus, take it to a store in person, someone you trust. Don't ever call these numbers, because what they're going to do is they're going to have you walk through steps to give them access so they can download something like ransomware on your computer, where they can take your computer over, where they can pull data out of your computer. So these are really the most common methods I see. And I think I may have talked about this last time. It has not changed. I still love the TV show Judge Judy. I got addicted to it during the pandemic. She's my favorite TV personality, probably. She's got what we call, us Judy fans, we call them Judaisms. Judy fades, dumb as forever. It's probably my favorite one. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have good memory. And this one really applies to cybersecurity. I use this one all the time with people. If something doesn't make sense, it isn't true. Trust your gut instincts. You get a phone call that seems weird. You get a text, this doesn't feel right. Trust that instinct. That's
Yeah.
probably one of your best defenses, and you don't have to go out and buy it, right? Very non-technical. It's okay to be a little paranoid. I once got an email from Schwab that said urgent action required. And I'm like, oh, urgent? Called Schwab. It actually was true. They did send me the email. I did suggest that maybe next time don't put the word urgent in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was true. But that was okay. I still called to find that out because a lot of times it wouldn't be true. But I picked up the phone. I didn't call the number in the email. I called a number that I knew was Schwab and found out in that case it was. But that's okay.
Jared, this is so helpful. I want to pause for a second here because, you know, in our firm, every 3 months, our staff goes through training to kind of take people through and reminders about phishing and spear phishing and the latest scams, and it's very effective training. And then throughout the year, we're constantly testing staff by sending them, you know, what appears to be or what may be phishing emails or things to kind of trick them into maybe clicking on a link. And people have been pretty good at picking up on it and not doing it. And for me, that's like, you know, in sports, the number of repetitions, the number of reps you've got keeps you fresh and really develops your skills. But for our clients, for people that are attending this webinar, they don't have that same opportunity to stay fresh and to practice this stuff. How do you suggest people keep this front and center and really are, you know, aware of these things and practiced enough so that they can avoid these problems?
Yeah, and Michael, we do the same thing at Buckingham that you just described. We call it fake phishing our associates. And the goal of this is not to embarrass anybody or punish people. It's to make sure that they're thinking about these. And our rates are almost minuscule now.
Yeah.
First couple of times we did it, we had people click on stuff that maybe they shouldn't have, or, you know, we would say you shouldn't. Then we give them the education and we do it again and again and again. And even though we're almost down to zero, we do it every single month, and they vary. We don't send everyone the same one. Some are basic, some of them are really tricky.
Yeah.
For clients, I think those of you on this call think there's some basic things you can start doing though, is walk yourself through this exercise. When you get emails from someone, ask yourself, am I expecting it? Do I really know this sender? Does the address look right? If there's links on this, hover over them. And if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Open up a separate browser, make that extra step, and just keep going through that process, asking yourselves those questions. Anytime you get a phone call where it's telling you have to do something, it's urgent, red flag right away. And we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to give everyone a list of some of these things. I would keep it next to your computer.
Yeah.
I would post it on your fridge, because it is easy in the moment to forget about these things. Because again, when they use social engineering, they're going to try to trigger emotions like anger, anxiety, excitement. And when those things happen, it's easy to forget these things. I've done it myself. I got an email, a text rather, from Venmo telling me that I had sent out $175. And I'm like, what? I didn't do that. And my first instinct was to click on that link. And then I'm like, wait a second. I talk about this for a living. What am I doing? Right? It's easy to fall for.
Yeah.
You know, I was having a party last year around the holidays, and the person who did this didn't know that, but maybe it was a happy coincidence. I got a phone call from the utility company. My power was going to be shut off in an hour.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh my, and then wait. And I was talking out loud, and somebody overheard me. They go, dude, that's not real. And I'm like, yeah, of course this isn't real. The utility company is not going to threaten me like this. Now, if I don't pay my bill, I'm going to get notices, right?
Right.
But I have a friend that works at the gas company. He says, you know how long it takes us to shut somebody's gas off? About 8 months of notices, right? No one's just going to call you and say, we're doing this in an hour. And I did realize it, but for a second there, that emotional trigger went off. So you got to kind of get in this routine of asking these questions to yourself. And the more often you do it, you're going to get better at it. You're going to start realizing right away, this isn't right. And we'll give some resources with that.
Yeah, so we'll be able to share a list that people can put by their computer, and just as a reminder to keep it front and center and keep it top of mind as people are spending time on the dangerous internet. Carry on, sir.
We'll do a interactive activity here, and we did this last year, so the examples are going to be different. Even though, although I think if you remember them, you probably fall for some of them again. It's called the Mandela effect. This is really interesting. It got named after Nelson Mandela by a researcher who determined that when she interviewed people, the majority of people believe Nelson Mandela went to prison in South Africa and died there, a national hero. And that's not totally true. He did go to prison in South Africa, was later released and became president of the country. And so she was trying to understand, why do some people remember this differently? And that's why she named the effect after him. Now, those of you on this call, if you want to go research Mandela effect, it's kind of fascinating. There's a lot of people that believe there's a parallel universe and there was a rip in the space-time continuum and things are slightly off. You can decide that for yourself. I don't believe that. I think this is just a great example of how our eyes and our memories play tricks on us. And we can't always trust what we see. So we'll show a couple examples of how this works. We'll do a quick game. So here's an example of Mandela effect. And everyone's probably seen The Empire Strikes Back, as a kid or an adult even. And there's a famous line in this movie: what does Darth Vader say to Luke Skywalker? And if you ask people, including me, I would always say, Luke, I am your father, right, in this scene. But if you go back and watch the movie, and by the way, 98% of people, that's the answer they give when asked this question. But if you go back and watch it, he says, no, I am your father. Why do we remember it this way? I have no idea. Maybe somebody got it wrong once and it just got out there, but this is Mandela effect, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you 5 images, 2 images at a time, 5 rounds, and see if you can get all these right. When we do this in person, we have everybody stand up, and as soon as you miss one, you have to sit down. And whether we have 10 people or 100 people, almost no one is ever standing at the end, even though they have a 50-50 shot, okay? You can play, if you want to put it in the chat, your answer, you're more than welcome to. You can just play along at home. Here's a famous painting of King Henry VIII, okay? But which one is correct? Is it the one on the left where he's holding a chicken leg, which seems a little weird? Or is it the one where he's holding a glove on the right? 1 or 2. And a lot of people say it's number 1. And I'm sure they've seen this image somewhere, but it's not correct.
Yeah.
Summertime, mom makes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for you. What peanut butter does she use? Does she use Jif or Jiffy? Okay, she used Jif.
Yeah.
Fruit of the Loom. What's the right logo here? Does the Fruit of the Loom logo have the cornucopia, or does it not have a cornucopia? Most people say it's number 1, but it's not. And it never has either. Because somebody we did an event, somebody goes, I know it had a cornucopia. And I guess he was Google searching it as we were finishing the presentation. He goes, I can't believe it, but it never did. All of us have seen the Flintstones, but what show did we watch? Did we watch the Flintstones or the Flintstones?
Huh.
Okay, we watched number 2. What's the right logo for Volvo? Again, these are big differences, right? These are not little tiny tweaks, right?
Yeah.
Is it a circle with an arrow, or is it just a circle? Which is the right Volvo logo? It's number 1. Most people say number 2. Yeah. So the whole point of this exercise, for those of you that have played along, and if you got all 5, incredible, because even when I do this myself, I sometimes forget what the right answer is. And there's, if you research Mandela effect, you can see hundreds of examples like this. The point of the exercise is, if we cannot recognize things that we see in everyday life, how are we going to recognize a fake website? Because a lot of people say, I'll know a fake website when I see it. I would argue you won't. And will the fake websites be different? Yeah, they will be, but they'll be close enough. So don't click on links where you don't know the sender, or you're not 100% positive. And even if you think you're sure, I always say, open up another browser. You got an email from Amazon, go to Amazon.com. Hover over that link, see where it's actually sending you. Because that's a common way to get your stuff, is sending you to a fake page. The other thing that all of us hate is passwords, right? Passwords is like the bane of our existence. But they're also still crucially important, because unfortunately, that is how we access the dark web, how we access a lot of private data. And if you've got a weak password, you have a straw house, and the fraudsters are going to blow right through. They use what they call credential stuffing software. where they can try to jam in 1,500 passwords. And if one of those is right, they're going to get right into your account. On the other hand, if you've got a really good password security, good password best practices, you have a brick house, they're probably going to stop trying, because there's so many straw houses out there. And we know that because these are the most common passwords from last year. And this list does not change very much from year to year. Why do people use these passwords? Everyone knows why, right? They're easy to type. They're easy to remember. They're also super easy to hack. We'll send out some information in the follow-up email. I would highly recommend using password management software. I personally, in my personal life, I use Dashlane. At work, we have an enterprise level system called Okta. I know 1Password today. I know my password to Dashlane. I keep all my passwords in Dashlane. I have Dashlane log me into systems. I have Dashlane create passwords for me that are super complex. But all the ones you see here are all good ones. The difference is in the bells and the whistles. Also would recommend two-factor authentication. We'll send out instructions on how you can do this for your bank accounts, for your custodial accounts, for your social media accounts. Typically, you're never defaulted into this. You have to opt into it, but it's highly effective. Is it going to be 100%? No way you would ever get hacked? No, but it's a lot safer, because if someone stole let's say someone stole my Yahoo password, and then they go to change the password, instead of Yahoo changing it, they're going to send a 4-digit code to my phone. And I'm going to be like, wait a minute, what? I'm not trying to change my password. And that away is a red flag, someone trying to do something, but they're not going to be able to do it. So highly recommend this form of security. I want to talk a little about some stuff going on in the news. This just happened to a coworker of mine this week. They call this check washing. He mailed in his tax return, and he didn't put it in his mailbox. He actually took it to one of the blue postal boxes. 2 weeks later, he gets a call from a bank saying, did you write a check to Dwayne so-and-so and the reason the bank got tipped off, one is he had his social security number on there and he put the IRS form on there. But what they'll do is, in this example here, this is a different example someone sent me. They sent a check out for some electrical contracting work. What the fraudsters will do is they will steal the checks, and then will use a chemical to erase the ink, and will change the sender who you're paying the check to.
Wow.
It happened to him as well. They erased the IRS line. They put another line for the person's name, and they tried to cash it. And the bank, they could tell that it had been washed a little bit, which for credit to the bank, because when he showed me, I didn't think it was that obvious. And the fact that he had the IRS, they should have also erased the IRS form. That was the big tip off. We're hoping this person's going to get arrested. We'll see what happens. They literally broke into the mailbox.
Wow.
So now that's changed my advice a little bit. Now I actually say to people, things like that, don't just drop it in a blue box, because apparently they're finding ways to get into those with keys. Take it to the actual US post office. So we're seeing a lot of this. I think when you can pay electronically, by the way, I think that's safer than writing checks, because think of all the data that's on your check, your routing number, your account number. I think paying online, as long as you're doing it securely, is actually safer than sending checks in the mail.
Yep.
Sometimes the digital ways are actually safer. Oh, I admire her as a musician. I can't say that I listen to a ton of her music, but Taylor Swift has generated more revenue for hotels this summer than probably anybody in the world. Every concert is selling out. So what's becoming a big scam? Ticket scams. Why? Because nowadays it used to be the counterfeiters had to counterfeit the physical ticket. They'd stand outside the stadiums, sell those tickets, and then hope to God you didn't find out before they left. These people were running a lot, I think. Now, most stadiums, a lot of places, they don't even accept paper tickets anymore. It's all digital. Fraudsters have picked up on this too. So when your daughter or son wants to go to that concert so bad, don't go to those offline marketplaces that are not the legit ones. You need to go through the actual ticket sites, or go through something like a StubHub or a SeatGeek. Don't buy tickets on Craigslist. Someone's going to send you a digital ticket, but it's not going to be real. And then you're going to get to that event and you're going to go scan that ticket. It's not going to work. So this has become a really popular scam this summer.
Wow.
And this one has been in the news. Some of you on this call may have read about this. The MGM Casino Hotel got hacked out in Las Vegas, and they are in a world of hurt right now. How did this happen? So it's kind of coming out in the news now. First of all, they got scammed by a Russian cyber group that is a faction of another group called Black Cat. This group is called Scattered Spider. And what they did was the same things that we just talked about earlier, though, super low tech. They used phishing to get somebody's credentials, okay, of an administrator in the tech department. They went to try to use them, but they had two-factor authentication. So now they needed a way to get that 4-digit code. So they used phishing. They called the help desk, said they were so-and-so from the tech department, got that person to switch the two-factor to a different phone number.
Wow.
Then, because they were an admin, got in, used the two-factor, got all the way in, launched ransomware code, sent an email to MGM saying, we are Scattered Spider. We have the ability to take over all of your systems if you do not pay us $15 million right now. MGM either wasn't sure it was real or didn't quite know what to do, so they did nothing. So the fraudster said, okay, fine, launched the ransomware, took over all of their stuff. Wow. Slot machines. This is what people saw when they went to go play slot machines and place bets. Room key cards did not work. They literally can't take bets right now in sports. Imagine how much that casino was lost.
This was just recently, right?
Just happened last week, and it's still going on. I talked to somebody who was out there for their honeymoon. They checked out of the hotel because they said there's really nothing. They go, if you're paying a slot machine, they can't take any credit cards for anything. The restaurants can't take credit cards. They're having to, and they got to pay you out in cash. So imagine someone sitting at a penny slot machine and they just won $1.20. Somebody from MGM's got to go out and pay them in cash $1.20. So it has been an absolute disaster for them. There were two other casinos that apparently got hit. I think Caesars is one of them, I believe. Not all the details are being made available, as you can imagine, but it sounds like those casinos, same method, but they went ahead and paid the ransom right away, which I think was $15 to $30 million.
Wow.
Not an easy decision, by the way. Can an individual get hit with ransomware? Absolutely. How would this work? Same thing we talked before. You get phished. You get tricked into clicking on a link. You're going to click on that link. They've launched ransomware. They've fully taken over your computer. And now you're going to get a call or an email saying, I'm Joe Bad Guy, and I've taken over your computer. And if you want to get it back, you're going to have to pay $3,000. What do you do? The FBI is very divided on this. There are some agents that will tell you never, ever pay that ransom. Because one, you're just giving into the bad guys. Two, even if you pay them, you don't know if they're going to actually give you your computer back. Some other agents say, you've got all your family photos on there, all your important documents. You want those back? You have to pay that ransom and hope that they give it back to you. Wow. They absolutely will target individuals. The one thing to do is, again, be aware of these type of scams. Also, back up your computer. Then it becomes an easy decision. So I back up my computer about once a month. I don't use my home computer a ton, but you could back it up every night, every week, every month. And then if this ever happened to you, it's a lot easier decision. You're like, well, I'm just gonna have to restore. I'll have to go back to factory default, and maybe I've lost my stuff in the past couple of days, but I've got it backed up and I can get it restored. They typically, by the way, these ransomware things, casino is an interesting one, but the ones they really tend to target are hospitals and schools because they cannot afford to be. Think about a hospital, life and death situations, right? You shut down someone's operating room equipment, they're going to pay that ransom. They can't afford to be down. And again, remember how I said these folks are ruthless? That's ruthless.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible.
Want to also show real quick here a real life scenario that happened to a client. And this is examples of how the things we talked about today can better protect you. She had her credit card stolen. She didn't realize that. Someone got it. It could have been she got phished. It also could have been nothing to do with her. Maybe it was stolen in a data breach. But a bad guy got it. Visa called her and said, hey, we're seeing activity in your account in Florida, but you live in Seattle, and we just saw you did a transaction in Seattle yesterday, and now it's Then 8 hours later, and now we're seeing stuff in Florida. She goes, no, I'm not in Florida. That was not me. They go, we're going to reverse all those charges. So she got her money back, and we're going to cancel your credit card. Everything's fine, right? I'm sure what happened was the fraudsters then tried to use the card again and saw that it had been canceled. So they called her as Visa. And they said, this is Visa calling again. Hey, we're also concerned they got on your computer. So we need to get access to your computer.
Wow.
Which you should never let someone do. So, but she did, because you can see how this would have made sense, right?
Yeah.
So she got them access to her computer. They got into the computer. And then once they got on the computer, they saw a document called password list.
Oh.
This is why we say never write down your passwords. Even if you put them on an Excel sheet and password protect it, that can be easily hacked. They found the passwords that got into her bank accounts, into her custodial accounts. They wired money from the bank to the custodial accounts. They moved the money from an IRA to a Roth. There were distributions, but she was going to have to pay taxes on. We got those reversed. The money was gone. She lost $150,000 in a matter of 4 or 5 hours.
Oh my God.
Real life, right? And what could be done? Nothing. The bank didn't refund her because the bank did nothing wrong. Fidelity was very helpful, and they tried to help us recover the money, but they couldn't. And she had two-factor on, and they convinced her to give them the numbers when they called, because they said, we're going to test out the new software. You're going to get these 2 factors. We're testing it with Fidelity. Give us the numbers. And she did. So there was nothing Fidelity could do either.
Wow.
Identity theft, how do you prevent it? There's what, I was a journalism major, Michael. I think I've told you that. This is how I got through math exams, right? I crossed my fingers. I don't recommend it. It didn't work for me, and it's not going to work for you. You can do things like LifeLock. A lot of people ask, is LifeLock good? I don't think it's bad. I think it's better than nothing, right? So if I have LifeLock and somebody opens up new credit in my name, LifeLock's going to let me know, hey, did you open up this credit? It's good to know, but it's already happened. The best way to prevent this is a credit freeze. We'll send out instructions on how to do this. You can do it online. It takes about 30 minutes. I highly recommend everybody do this. That is your best defense, is make sure it can't even happen. I went to open up an Amazon gift or credit card for the first time, got a thing in the mail. 2 weeks later, I got denied. I'm like, my credit was frozen. It worked exactly how it was intended though, right? That's what should have happened. They would not open it because they could not access my credit. And what I needed to do was just unfreeze it so Amazon could run my credit, and then I could refreeze it again. Yep. We'll set out some more information on this. We're also going to give everyone on the call today, Michael and his team are going to send you this 24-hour checklist. These are a lot of things we just talked about as reminders. Keep this by you. Remember, things that ask you to take immediate action. Big red flags. Something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. Don't click on links from unknown senders. Be sure we didn't talk about this today, but remember to keep your phone updated. When you get those prompts that your phone needs a security update, there's a reason they're sending that out. Now, it should be make sure it's from your actual phone, Verizon, or your phone company. Don't go to a site that flashes this towards you, but they're patching security holes. And we're busy during the day. It's very easy to say, all right, I'll delay it a day. I'll delay it a day. And a day becomes a week, becomes a month. And now that security hole's out there. I would highly recommend a password manager. Do 2-factor authentication and do that credit freeze for you and for your kids. We're also going to send you this list. These are just good reminders. Remember, these are things that will never, ever happen. The IRS is never going to text, call, or email you. No one's ever going to call you and know that you have a computer virus. It's not going to happen. You may get these calls, but remember, they don't know. Don't ever give access to your computer to someone who calls you. If you have a virus or you think you have a virus, go to a physical store, take it somewhere, brick and mortar store. Don't write or reuse the same passwords. We didn't talk about this one. Don't take online quizzes about yourself. I see a lot of these on Facebook. What's your favorite movie? Yeah. What they're really doing is they're scavenging for possible security answers. Don't share your vacation plans on social media. I was lucky. I was telling Michael earlier, I got to go to London this summer. So while I was in London, I took a lot of photos, but I didn't share anything about my vacation until I was back in the US, because I didn't want to advertise that I was not home for 2 weeks. And if you've got that chance for 2-factor authentication, take it. Don't skip past it. And don't respond to pressure or threats, because that's what they'll try to do to get you to. And last but not least, if you take anything away from today, these are the 2 red flags of all scams. I don't care how simple they are. Like, I'm the prince of a foreign country trying to send you $5 million, or some really sophisticated stuff like we saw in that previous example. I think that, by the way, I think that was really sophisticated.
Yes.
2 things will always happen. One or both. You're going to be asked for money. And when it happens, it's going to be urgent. I was working with an advisor whose mother got scammed in a romance scam. And a lot of these happened during the pandemic. And it was very long period of time. They didn't do it for 2 years before they tried to get money from her. It's a long time, right? She was in an online relationship, so she thought. Suddenly the guy's in a foreign country, he's in jail, he needs help. She sent him $200,000, and a couple hours later didn't hear anything and had that bad feeling sunk in. And she was too embarrassed to say anything to her family for 6 months. Even though, again, there's nothing to be embarrassed about, but you can see how that could happen. So again, you're asked for money, it's urgent, your antenna should go up. And you're asked for personal information, social security number, account numbers, bank numbers. These are big, big red flags. Michael and his team, your banks, a lot of companies that you work with, they're going to try to protect you, but your best defense is not going off the grid. I didn't want to scare people today into thinking they have to go offline and unplug all their computers, because there's so many benefits of the internet. But your biggest defense really is you. You can take control of some of this stuff. There's no 100% guarantees, but if you do all these little things we talked about today, your target size is going to become really tiny compared to really big. Yeah. And with that, Michael, I'll turn it back over to you. If we have any questions, we'll take a few, and otherwise we'll wrap up.
Good. We don't have any questions, but I wanted to ask you about artificial intelligence and what you're seeing happen there with fraudsters and their use of artificial intelligence. And I'll give you a little example. We had a client, several months ago, scammed. Completely different deal, but one of the people that she was talking to that was trying to convince her to do this thing that she ended up being scammed about was impersonating a financial advisor from a well-known firm, a large insurance company based firm, and had taken their public information off of the firm's site, where they had a listing about this person and their what's called CRD number and all that, and we're using that information to impersonate this supposed financial professional when it wasn't there. We got involved. We actually got in touch with the company and that person's supervisor and the regulators and all the above, and helped to uncover the scam. But so back to artificial intelligence, what can you tell us about the rise of AI and the impact?
Well, if you follow this at all, AI is exploding right now, right? And it's still in the beta phase, but it's fascinating. I have used some different tools in my personal life to help me plan a party. I've used it to send some emails to a few people that were kind of long. And it's amazing how well some of this stuff works. Of course, the fraudsters have also figured out this could be incredible for us too. And they're absolutely leveraging it. They're using it to write some of these phishing emails, probably use the right grammar to translate it to the language of the country. I saw an article where, kind of similar to what you're talking about, Michael, where they had a recording of somebody who gave a speech. Some professor at a university gave a speech, and they had enough of that recording. They were able to use AI to basically imitate that person's voice.
Yeah.
And work with different companies as that professor to get things. So it's a little scary. I still think a lot of the things we talked about here today can protect you, but it's going to get even tougher. And I'm not sure where this is all going to end up, but I do know that, again, fraudsters are already using this pretty effectively.
Well, listen, we've reached the end of our time. As usual, Jared, fascinating, super helpful. We will follow up and send people out this material that you're providing. Thank you so much. We want to assure people that we do everything that we can to protect people's identity and protect them. But I think your last point was the most important one. It really is up to each of us individually to be smart, to not be fooled, and to protect ourselves from potential crime, from the fraudsters that are out there. So we'll look forward to seeing you next year. We'll see what the new things are that are out there, and continue to help people be safe. Thanks everyone for joining us. Next month in October, my guest will be Paul Hawken, nationally known author and expert. We're going to be talking about his book, Regeneration, about climate change and that kind of thing. So join us next month. And in the meantime, thanks, Jared, and everybody have a safe week.